Mexican cartel tried to take over a Texas steakhouse. When the manager spoke, everyone froze. It's 11:43 p.m. on Saturday, October 14, 2024, when four black Chevy Suburbans with removed plates park in front of the Big Corral Steakhouse, the most famous barbecue and steak restaurant in San Antonio, Texas. 16 cartel enforcers armed with AR-15 rifles and Glock pistols step out. They wear dark jeans, cowboy boots, and dress shirts. They look like regular customers until they block all three exits of the establishment. Inside, there are 87 people dining, families celebrating birthdays, couples on dates, groups of friends sharing BBQ platters. The smell of grilled steaks fills the air. Country music plays from the speakers. Servers move back and forth with trays of fajitas and pitchers of cold beer. Everything is perfectly normal until the 16 men enter simultaneously through the main, side, and back doors. The commander of the group, a 38-year-old man with a scar running from his left eyebrow to his cheekbone, walks straight to the center of the main dining room. He raises his AR-15 and fires 3 shots into the ceiling. The explosions sound like thunder. Pieces of drywall fall like dirty snow. Screams fill the restaurant. Plates shatter against the floor. A woman hugs her 2 young children. A 60-year-old man dives under his table. "Everyone on the floor now," the commander shouts. "Hands behind your heads. Nobody moves. Nobody uses their phone or I'll blow your brains out." The 87 customers obey immediately. They throw themselves onto the cold tile floor. Some cry. Others pray quietly. The servers, 8 young people between 19 and 25 years old, drop beside their customers. Only one person remains standing. Behind the main bar, wiping a glass with a white towel, stands Frankie Morrison. He's 68 years old, completely white hair, trimmed mustache, skin tanned from decades of work under the sun. He wears an impeccable white shirt, black dress pants, and a big corral apron. To everyone in San Antonio, he's simply Frankie, the night manager who's worked at the same restaurant for 22 years. The quiet man who never raises his voice, who knows every regular customer by name, who makes the best beer cocktails in all of Texas. What these 16 cartel enforcers don't know, what nobody in San Antonio knows except 3 people in the entire country, is that Frankie Morrison isn't who he says he is, that his current identity is constructed, that 25 years ago, this man was Colonel Frank Morrison, commander of U.S. Army Special Forces, that between 1985 and 1999, he led 47 anti-narcotics operations along the border and in cartel territories, that he personally eliminated 23 high-value targets, that he trained over 200 elite operators, that the Sinaloa cartel put a $500,000 bounty on his head in 1997, that he disappeared in 1999 after Gulf Cartel hitmen tortured and murdered his wife and 12-year-old daughter in front of his house in Houston while he was on a mission in Laredo. What these enforcers also don't know is that they're about to commit the biggest and last mistake of their lives. The commander looks at Frankie still standing behind the bar. He walks toward him with heavy steps. His boots echo against the floor. He stops 6 feet away. "Old man, are you deaf?" I said on the floor. Frankie places the clean glass on the bar with a slow, deliberate movement. He folds the white towel carefully. His hands don't tremble. His expression doesn't change. He looks the commander directly in the eyes without blinking. "This is my restaurant," he says in a low, hoarse, calm voice. "I don't kneel here. If you want to know how this story ends, subscribe to the channel, because what will happen in the next 40 minutes will change the fate of these 16 enforcers and reveal who the man behind the bar really is." The commander smiles. It's a cruel smile accustomed to immediate obedience. He gestures with his head. 2 enforcers, one 25 years old with skull tattoos on his neck and another 30 years old with a trimmed goatee, surround the bar from both sides. They grab Frankie by the arms. They try to pull him. Frankie doesn't resist. He lets them take him. But when they pull him forward, something about the way he moves makes the enforcer with the goatee loosen his grip for a second. There's a fluidity in the old man's body, an economy of movement that doesn't correspond to a 68-year-old restaurant manager. They slam him against the wall next to the bottles of Jack Daniels and bourbon. A bottle falls and breaks. The smell of whiskey fills the air. mixing with the smell of gunpowder and fear. The commander presses the barrel of his AR-15 against Frankie's forehead. "Last chance, old man. This restaurant now pays protection. $10,000 weekly. We came to talk to the owner, but I see he's not here. So you're going to give him the message. Or would you prefer we kill some of these customers so you understand we're serious?" Frankie breathes slowly. He feels the cold metal of the barrel against his wrinkled skin. He smells the nervous sweat of the enforcers, the recent gunpowder on their weapons, the terror of 87 people lying on the floor. He's been in this position before, many times. 25 years ago when he was the one asking questions with the gun in his hand. "The owner isn't here," Frankie says calmly. "He's in Austin visiting his family. He returns Monday." "Then you give him the message," the commander repeats. "10,000 weekly or we shut this place down. Understood, old man?" Frankie nods slowly. "Understood." The commander lowers his weapon. He turns to his men. "Order food, steaks, fajitas, whatever you want, free obviously, and bring me a beer, and bring me a—" The enforcers laugh. Some sit at empty tables. Others remain standing, watching the exits. The 87 customers stay on the floor without moving. A 6-year-old girl cries, hugging her mother. A 45-year-old man trembles so hard his knees hit the floor. Frankie returns behind the bar. 2 enforcers follow him, pointing their pistols. He moves calmly toward the grill where there are still cuts of meat cooking. He picks up tongs. He flips the cuts that are browning. The enforcer with the skull tattoo sits on a bar stool. "Old man, give me a steak taco and a beer, and make sure it's cold." Frankie nods. He prepares the taco with precise movements. Fresh flour tortilla, juicy meat, chopped cilantro, onions, lime, green salsa. He places it on a plate in front of the enforcer. Then he takes a Lone Star from the refrigerator. He opens it. He pours it into a frosted glass. The enforcer bites the taco. His eyes open in surprise. "Damn, old man, this is good. Make me another one." To understand how Frankie reached this moment, we must go back 25 years. To 1999, when he was Colonel Frank Morrison. When his life was completely different. Frank was born in 1956 on a ranch near San Angelo, Texas. His father was a ranch hand, his mother a seamstress. They were poor but dignified. At 18, Frank enlisted in the Army because he wanted to escape poverty. He wanted to give his mother a better life. He wanted to be somebody. He turned out to be an exceptional soldier, disciplined, intelligent, lethal when necessary. In 1980, they selected him for Special Forces. In 1985, they promoted him to lieutenant. In 1990, to captain. In 1995, to major. In 1997, to colonel. During those years, he participated in dozens of operations against the cartels. It was the golden age of Mexican drug trafficking expanding into the United States. Amado Carrillo Fuentes, the Arellano Felix brothers, El Chapo Guzman. The Army waged a silent war against these men along the border. Frank was one of the best, cold, calculating, effective. He never failed a mission. His superiors admired him. His subordinates respected him. His enemies feared him. In 1981, he met Sarah at a fellow soldier's wedding. She was an elementary school teacher. Sweet, intelligent. The opposite of the violence Frank lived with every day. They married 6 months later. In 1987, their daughter Emily was born. Sarah and Emily were his world, his reason to keep going. Every dangerous mission he survived, thinking about returning to them. Every cartel hitman he eliminated, he did so imagining he was protecting his family from those monsters. But in 1999, everything collapsed. Frank was leading an operation in Laredo against a Gulf cartel cell. They captured 3 important enforcers. They seized 500 kilos of cocaine. It was a total success. 2 weeks later, Frank was on another mission in Arizona. His cell phone rang. It was his neighbor in Houston where his family lived. He was screaming incoherently. Frank didn't understand, until he heard the words that destroyed his life. "Sarah and Emily, outside your house. dead. Frank returned to Houston in a military helicopter. He arrived at his house. The scene was a nightmare. Sarah lay in the front yard. She'd been shot 12 times. Emily was 10 feet away, 7 bullets. She was 12 years old. Next to the bodies was a message written on cardboard. "This is what happens when you mess with the Gulf Cartel. You're next, old man." Frank knelt between the corpses of his wife and daughter. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. Something inside him broke so deep he couldn't feel anything anymore. Just a frozen emptiness. Just a darkness that would never be filled. The funeral was 3 days later. Frank buried the 2 people he loved most in the world. His superiors offered him leave. He refused. He wanted revenge. He wanted blood. For 6 months, Frank became something worse than the criminals he hunted. He operated outside protocols. He tortured for information. He executed hitmen without trial. His obsession was finding the men who had killed his family. He found 4. He interrogated them personally. He made them suffer. He killed them slowly. But revenge didn't fill the void. It only made it deeper. In March 1999, his superiors called him in. They told him he had to stop, that he was crossing lines, that the army couldn't protect him if he kept operating that way. Frank understood. He understood his career was over. He understood he could no longer be a soldier. That night he submitted his resignation. He disappeared. For 3 years, Frank wandered across the Southwest. He worked construction in El Paso, as a security guard in Tucson, as a mechanic in Phoenix. He used false names. He changed cities every 6 months. He lived in cheap motel rooms. He didn't make friends. He didn't talk about his past. Alcohol became his companion. Every night he drank until he lost consciousness. It was the only way not to see Sarah's and Emily's faces, not to hear the screams his imagination constantly recreated, not to feel the guilt that devoured him from within. In 2002, he arrived in San Antonio completely broken. He was 46 years old but looked 60. Thin, gaunt, sunken eyes, hands that trembled when he didn't have alcohol. He slept on the streets downtown. He ate from trash cans. He was a ghost of who he'd been. One November dawn, he was lying on a bench in the main plaza when a man sat beside him. It was Ray Contreras, owner of the Big Corral. He was 55 years old, gray mustache, cowboy hat, kind but firm gaze. "Hey, friend," Ray said. "How long have you been living like this?" Frank didn't respond. He didn't even look at him. Ray insisted. "I have a restaurant 2 blocks away. I need help in the kitchen. I'll give you work, food, and a room in the back. Nothing fancy, but it's something. Interested?" Frank looked at him for the first time. "Why would you do that for me?" "Because 20 years ago I was where you are. Someone gave me a chance. Now it's my turn to give one." Frank accepted because he had nothing to lose. He started washing dishes at the Big Corral. Ray didn't ask him questions about his past. He didn't demand documents. He just gave him work and a place to sleep. The first months were difficult. Frank struggled with alcohol, with nightmares, with the emptiness. But slowly the work began to give him structure, routine, small but real purpose. Ray treated him with dignity. He taught him the business. He made him feel useful. And Frank responded. He stopped drinking. He started taking care of himself. He gained some weight. The dark circles diminished. After 6 months, Ray promoted him to cook. Frank turned out to be good. He learned quickly. He had military discipline that he applied to everything. Precision, order, consistency. After a year, he made him night manager. Frank handled the dinner shift. He supervised servers. He controlled inventory. He dealt with customers. He was a reliable person. In 2004, Ray asked him what his real name was. Frank told him the truth. Everything. The army. The missions. Sarah, Emily. The revenge. The fall. Ray listened in silence. When Frank finished, Ray said something that changed everything. "The past is the past, friend. You can stay trapped there or you can build something new. Here you have a family. You have a purpose. You have a reason to get up every day. Don't waste this second chance." Frank cried for the first time since the funeral. He cried everything he hadn't cried in 5 years. Ray hugged him like a father hugs a broken son. The years passed. Frank became an essential part of the big corral. Customers loved him. Employees respected him. Ray treated him like family. Frank built a small but dignified life. He wasn't happy. Happiness had died with Sarah and Emily. But he had peace, he had stability, he had something to live for. He married in 2008 to Linda, a 52-year-old widowed nurse with 2 adult children. It wasn't passionate love. It was companionship. Mutual understanding. 2 lonely people who found each other. Linda knew about Frank's past. She accepted all of him. In 2010, Ray suffered a heart attack. He survived, but the doctor ordered him to retire. Ray offered Frank to buy the restaurant. Frank didn't have money. Ray proposed he pay in installments over 10 years. Frank accepted. He became owner of the Big Corral in 2020 after religiously paying every month for a decade. Ray died in 2021. In his will, he wrote that Frankie Morrison was the best man he'd ever known. For 22 years, Frank lived quietly. Nobody in San Antonio knew who he really was. Nobody knew his military past. He was simply Frankie, the friendly manager, the man who prepared the best BBQ, the one who never got into trouble. Until tonight. The commander finishes his beer. He orders another. Frankie serves it without a word. The enforcer with the skull tattoo devours his 3rd taco. The other 14 enforcers are scattered throughout the restaurant. Some eat. Others watch. The 87 customers remain on the floor, terrified. The commander walks among the bodies on the floor. He stops next to a family. Father, 40 years old. Mother, 35. 2 children, 8 and 10 years old. All 4 hugging on the floor. The commander puts his boot on the father's back. He presses down. "Hey you, do you come here often?" The man trembles. "Yes, sir. Every Saturday with my family." "Perfect. Then you're going to tell all your friends that this restaurant now has new partners. That here we respect the cartel. Understood?" The man nods desperately. "Yes, sir. Whatever you say." The commander smiles. He removes his boot. He walks toward Frankie at the bar. He sits on a stool in front of him. "Old man, give me a taco too, and put some of that hot sauce you put on my buddies." Frankie prepares the taco. Meat, tortilla, cilantro, onions, red habanero salsa. He places it in front of the commander. The enforcer tries it. He nods approvingly. "This is good, old man. Too bad your boss is so cheap. 10,000 weekly is nothing for a business like this. I bet he makes triple that every weekend." "The restaurant does well," Frankie responds with a neutral voice. "But 10,000 weekly is 40,000 a month. That's too much." The commander laughs. "Too much? Old man, you don't understand how this works. We protect the business. Nobody robs it. Nobody vandalizes it. Nobody bothers the customers. It's a service." Frankie wipes the bar with his towel. "We don't need that service. This restaurant has operated for 30 years without problems." The commander stops laughing. His expression hardens. "Old man, don't make me angry. I'm not negotiating, I'm informing. Your boss pays or we shut the place down. That's simple." Frankie stops cleaning. He looks at the commander directly. "And if he doesn't pay, what? You're going to kill innocent people? You're going to burn the restaurant? You're going to destroy what 30 years of work built?" The commander leans over the bar. His face inches from Frankie's. "Exactly, old man. We're going to do all that and more. Because that's how the world works. The strong command, the weak obey. And you are weak." Frankie holds his gaze. He doesn't blink. There's something in his eyes that makes the commander lean back slightly. Something cold, ancient, dangerous. "I'm not weak," Frankie says in a voice so low only the commander can hear. "And you're not as strong as you think." Before continuing, write in the comments what country and city you're watching from. The commander stands up from the stool abruptly. His hand instinctively goes to his pistol. The other 15 enforcers notice the change in his posture. They tense. They point their weapons toward Frankie. What did you say, old man? Frankie doesn't back down. He remains behind the bar with his hands visible on the counter. His expression doesn't change. His voice remains the same, calm, almost bored. I said you're not as strong as you think. The commander pulls out his Glock 19. He points it directly at Frankie's head, his finger on the trigger. The 87 customers on the floor hold their breath. A woman sobs. A child screams, "Mommy, give me one reason not to blow your brains out right now." Frankie looks at the weapon as if it were a minor annoyance. Because if you kill me, you'll never know who I really am. And trust me, you need to know before it's too late.
The commander frowns. Who are you? A damn old man who serves tacos. Don't give me that bullshit. Frankie slowly removes the big corral apron. He folds it carefully. He places it on the bar. Then he walks toward the commander with measured steps. Not threatening, just confident. The enforcers follow him with their weapons, but nobody shoots. There's something about the way he moves that paralyzes them. He stops 3 feet from the commander. He slowly raises his right hand. He unbuttons his white shirt sleeve. He rolls it up to the elbow. On his forearm is an old tattoo, faded by the years but still visible. It's the shield of the U.S. Army Special Forces. Eagle, sword, parachute, and below, numbers. SF 047. The commander looks at the tattoo. His expression changes from arrogance to confusion. You're military? I was military, Frankie corrects. Colonel Frank Morrison, Army Special Forces, 1978 to 1999. 47 anti-narcotics operations, 23 high-value targets eliminated, trainer of 200 elite operators. The commander lowers his pistol slightly. The other enforcers look at each other. The name sounds familiar, but they're not sure from where. You're lying. Morrison disappeared 25 years ago. He's dead. I disappeared, Frankie confirms. But I'm not dead. I changed my identity. I became Frankie Morrison, restaurant manager. I lived 22 years in peace. Until you arrived. The enforcer with the skull tattoo pulls out his cell phone. He searches quickly on Google. His eyes widen. Boss, he says with a nervous voice, it's real. There are old articles here. Colonel Morrison disappeared in 1999. The Army never confirmed if he died or deserted. The commander takes the phone. He reads. His face pales. He looks at Frankie with new eyes. It's no longer arrogance, it's calculation, controlled fear. If you're who you say, why are you serving tacos? Why aren't you still in the Army? Frankie lowers his sleeve. He buttons the cuff. I retired because the Gulf Cartel killed my wife and daughter in 1999. They executed them in front of my house in Houston while I was in Laredo. I killed 4 of those responsible. Then I disappeared because I understood this war never ends. That for every hitman you eliminate, 2 more take his place. That revenge doesn't fill the void. The restaurant is in absolute silence. Only the nervous breathing of the enforcers and the contained crying of some customers can be heard. Frankie continues. I came here to rebuild my life, to find some peace. I achieved it for 22 years. I worked honestly. I married again. I built something good. And now you come to destroy it. The commander slowly holsters his pistol. He looks at his men. He gestures. Some lower their weapons. Others keep them pointed. The tension is like a cable about to snap. Look, Morrison or whatever your name is, I respect your story, seriously. But that was 25 years ago. Now you're an old man. We're 16. We're armed. You have nothing. So your past doesn't matter. The owner of this place is going to pay, or we're going to burn everything. Frankie nods slowly. You're right about one thing. I'm old. I'm 68 years old. My knees creak. My back hurts. My hands aren't as fast as before. He walks back toward the bar. The enforcers follow him with their weapons. He stops in front of the liquor shelf. He takes a bottle of bourbon. He pours a shot. He drinks it in one gulp. The whiskey burns. It tastes like irreversible decisions. But, Frankie continues,
There are things you never forget: muscle memory, training, instinct, and above all, the ability to read a tactical situation. The commander approaches. "What are you talking about, old man?" Frankie points around the restaurant without turning. "You're 16. You entered through 3 doors, you blocked the exits. You put 4 men at each entrance. You left 4 in the center. Basic space control tactics. I learned it in 1982. So what?" the commander responds. "We control the situation." "No," Frankie says. "You think you control it, but you made 3 mistakes." The enforcer with the goatee laughs nervously. "What mistakes?" Frankie raises one finger. "First, you assumed this place has no security, that a family restaurant doesn't prepare for contingencies." He raises a second finger. "Second, you assumed I'm alone, that an old manager has no backup." He raises a third finger. "Third, you gave me 43 minutes to evaluate your formation, count your weapons, identify the leader, and calculate the best plan of action." The commander looks at his watch. It's 12:26 a.m. They've been in the restaurant exactly 43 minutes. His expression hardens. "You're bluffing, old man. You have nothing." Frankie walks to the end of the bar. He crouches. The enforcers tense. They aim. He stands up with empty hands. He presses a hidden button under the counter. The restaurant lights go completely out. Total darkness. The enforcers scream. They fire into the air. The explosions illuminate the place in strobe flashes. The customers on the floor scream in terror. 3 seconds of darkness. When the emergency lights turn on, Frankie is no longer behind the bar. He's disappeared. The 16 enforcers point in all directions. The commander shouts, "Find him! He can't have gone far!" But Frankie knows this restaurant better than his own home. 22 years working here. He knows every corner, every shadow, every escape route. He moves silently toward the kitchen. He opens a panel in the wall that nobody except him and Ray knew existed. Inside are 3 things: a Remington 870 shotgun with 5 shells, a Glock 17 pistol with 2 17-round magazines, a K-bar combat knife. Ray put them there in 2005 when the Zetas started operating in Texas. "It's just in case," he'd said. "You never know when the past comes back." Frankie takes the Glock. He checks the magazine. 17 rounds. He takes the knife. He leaves the shotgun. Too loud for what he's planning. He moves in the darkness with a fluidity his 68 years shouldn't allow. But Special Forces training never completely disappears. His body remembers. His instincts awaken after 25 years asleep. The first enforcer, the young man with the goatee, enters the kitchen searching. Frankie is behind the door. He waits. The enforcer passes. Frankie emerges from the shadows. One hand covers the enforcer's mouth. The knife enters between the ribs. Silent, precise, lethal. The enforcer falls without making a sound. Frankie takes his AR-15. Now he has rifle, pistol, and knife. In the main dining room, the other 15 enforcers are nervous. The commander shouts orders. 2 of you check the kitchen, 2 more the bathroom, the rest maintain formation. But the formation is already broken. Panic begins to seep in. An old man made them disappear. An old man who supposedly wasn't a threat. The enforcer with the skull tattoo enters the kitchen with another partner. They see Goatee's body on the floor. Dark blood under the emergency lights. "Boss, they killed Goatee." The scream alerts everyone. The enforcers enter combat mode. But they don't know what they're fighting. They don't see the enemy, only darkness and silence. Frankie is in the false ceiling of the kitchen. A 2-foot space between the visible ceiling and the real ceiling. It was installed 15 years ago to hide cables and pipes. Nobody except Frankie knows a man can fit there. He observes through a crack. The 2 enforcers in the kitchen have their backs to him. They point toward the shadows, nervous, breathing fast. Frankie doesn't shoot. Not yet. Too much noise. Too much alert. He waits. Patience. Another Special Forces lesson. He who moves first loses. One of the enforcers approaches the large pantry. He opens the door with the barrel of his AR-15. Empty. He turns. Frankie pushes a false ceiling tile. He drops silently behind the second enforcer. The knife enters the base of the skull. Instant death. The body falls. The first enforcer turns. He sees his partner on the floor. He sees Frankie. He raises his AR-15. Frankie is faster. 2 shots from the Glock. Chest. Head. The enforcer falls. Now there's noise. The other 13 enforcers in the dining room know exactly where Frankie is. They charge toward the kitchen. The commander shouts, "Kill him!" Frankie is ready. He positions himself behind the industrial stove. Thick steel. Good cover. He has the AR-15 from the first enforcer. 30 rounds. Glock with 15 rounds remaining. Knife. The enforcers enter in a group. Tactical error. Frankie fires the AR-15 in controlled bursts. 3 fall immediately. The others scatter seeking cover. The restaurant explodes in a firefight. Bullets pierce walls, shatter plates, destroy bottles. The 87 customers on the floor crawl toward corners. Some manage to exit through the side door, taking advantage of the chaos. Frankie moves. He doesn't stay in the same place. Constant movement tactics. He shoots from the stove. He moves to the refrigerator. He shoots. He moves to the back door. He shoots. Each burst is precise. Every bullet counts. 25 years without combat. But his body remembers. His hands don't tremble. His breathing is controlled. It's as if he'd never stopped being a soldier. 4 more enforcers fall. 9 remain, including the commander. The commander realizes he's losing. 9 men against 1. But that one is a ghost who knows every inch of the terrain, who moves like an elite operator, who doesn't miss. "Fall back to the dining room," the commander shouts. "Defensive formation." The 9 remaining enforcers crawl out of the kitchen. They use tables as cover. The commander takes his radio. He speaks quickly. "Code red. We need backup at the big corral. Now." Frankie listens from the kitchen. He knows he has minutes before more enforcers arrive. He must end this now. He checks his ammunition. AR-15 empty. He leaves it. Glock with 15 rounds. 1 extra magazine. Knife. He exits the kitchen through the back door. He circles the building from outside. He enters through the side door of the dining room. The enforcers don't expect him from that angle. They're focused watching the kitchen. He shoots 2 enforcers from behind. They fall before they can turn. The other 7 scatter. Now they're truly scared. This old man is hunting them, one by one. The commander hides behind the main bar. 3 enforcers with him. The other 3 are scattered among the tables. The customers who didn't manage to escape, about 40, are pressed against the walls, praying not to die in the crossfire. Frankie positions himself behind a structural column. Solid concrete. It can withstand bullets. He shouts toward the bar. "Commander, you can still get out of here alive. You and your men. Surrender. Testify against your bosses. Enter witness protection." The commander laughs bitterly. "Witness protection? They're going to kill us anyway. The cartel has people inside the government. There's no escape." "Then you die here," Frankie responds. "Because I'm not going to let you take this restaurant. I'm not going to let you destroy what took me 22 years to build." The commander raises his AR-15 over the bar. He fires a burst toward the column. The bullets impact the concrete. Dust and fragments explode. Frankie doesn't move. He waits. One of the 3 enforcers scattered among the tables tries to flank. He moves crouched between chairs. Frankie sees him in the reflection of a picture frame on the wall. He turns. He fires twice. The enforcer falls. 6 remain. At that moment outside, sirens are heard. Many sirens. Someone called the police. The enforcers look at each other with growing panic. They're trapped. Police outside, an ex-colonel hunting them inside. The commander makes a desperate decision. He shouts to his men, "Grab hostages, now." 2 enforcers run toward the customers pressed against the wall. They grab a 30-year-old woman and a 45-year-old man. They use them as shields, guns against their heads. Frankie freezes. This is the scenario he feared. He can't shoot without risking the innocents. The enforcers know it. The commander smiles. What happened, old man? You're not so brave when there are civilians involved.
Frankie lowers his Glock slightly. You're right. I can't risk them. Let them go and I'll give you what you want. The commander laughs. What we want? We don't want money anymore, old man. We want to get out alive. And you're going to let us. The sirens are closer. Red and blue lights illuminate the restaurant windows. Amplified voices shout outside. State police! Come out with your hands up! The commander shouts toward the door. We have hostages. If you enter, we kill them all. Outside, the state police commander, a 50-year-old man named Jim Ruiz, evaluates the situation. 40 patrol cars surround the big corral. 80 officers with long guns, snipers in nearby buildings. But they can't enter without risking the hostages. Jim takes his megaphone. He speaks with a firm voice. Release the civilians, then we'll negotiate. The commander shouts back. No, the civilians leave when we leave. Give us a vehicle and free passage or we start executing them. Frankie knows they can't wait. The enforcers are desperate. Desperation leads to mistakes or massacres. He must act. He observes the position of the 6 remaining enforcers. Commander behind the bar with 2 men. 2 enforcers holding hostages 15 feet away. 1 enforcer watching the main door. Tactical geometry. Shooting angles. Danger zones. He needs a distraction. Something to break their formation for 2 seconds. 2 seconds is all he needs. He looks toward the kitchen. The gas tank. 50 liters. Connected to the stove. If he releases it and ignites it, the explosion won't be enough to destroy the building, but it will create chaos. Smoke. Fire. Confusion. Frankie shouts toward the commander. All right, I'll let you leave, but release the hostages first. The commander hesitates. He looks at his men. They're terrified. 6 against 80 police outside, plus an ex-colonel inside. They have no options. We release half. 5 civilians. The other 5 leave with us. Frankie nods. I accept. Release the 5 first. The commander gestures. The 2 enforcers with hostages release them. 3 other civilians are freed as well. All 5 run toward the main door. The enforcer watching opens it. The civilians exit with their hands up. The police receive them. Now 35 civilians remain inside. The enforcers grab 5 more. Frankie uses those seconds of distraction. He runs crouched toward the kitchen. Nobody sees him. He reaches the gas tank. He opens the valve. The hiss of released gas fills the kitchen. He waits 30 seconds, the gas spreads, then he takes a lighter from the stove, he throws it toward the gas. He runs toward the dining room. The explosion isn't massive, but it's powerful. Fire and smoke fill the kitchen. Flames jump toward the dining room. The enforcers scream. The civilians scream. The chaos is total. Frankie acts. 2 seconds of confusion is all he needs. He shoots the enforcer watching the door. He falls. He shoots one holding a hostage. He falls. The hostage runs. He shoots the second. He falls. The second hostage runs. 3 remain. The commander and 2 enforcers behind the bar. Frankie launches himself over the bar. He rolls. He lands on the other side. The 3 enforcers are 3 feet away. He shoots the 2 companions. Point blank. They fall. The commander raises his pistol. Frankie is faster. He shoots. The bullet impacts the commander's hand. The pistol falls. The commander screams in pain. Frankie stands. He points the Glock at the commander's head, his finger on the trigger. 1 pound of pressure and it's all over. The commander looks at him with wide eyes. Pure terror. Do it. Kill me. Frankie breathes deeply. His finger trembles on the trigger. 25 years ago, he would have fired without thinking. But 22 years serving steaks changed him. 22 years building something good. 22 years being Frankie instead of Colonel Morrison. He lowers the weapon. No, I've had enough death in my life. The police burst through all doors. 30 officers with weapons. They shout orders. On the floor, hands behind your head. Frankie obeys. He drops the Glock. He kneels, hands behind his head. He knows the protocol.
Commander Jim Ruiz enters. He sees the 15 bodies of enforcers. He sees the wounded commander on the floor. He sees Frankie kneeling. He walks toward him. "You did all this?" Frankie nods. "They came to extort. I defended myself." Jim observes the scene. The precision of the shots. The evident military tactics. The way the bodies fell. This wasn't a civilian defending himself. This was a professional executing an operation. "Who are you really?" Frankie looks at him, tired. "Someone who just wanted to live in peace." "What would you have done in his place?" Tell us in the comments. Commander Jim Ruiz helps Frankie to his feet. Paramedics rush in. They attend to the wounded enforcer. They check the bodies. 15 dead, 1 captured alive. The 35 remaining civilians exit the restaurant, trembling but unharmed. News cameras are already outside. Reporters shout questions. Lights illuminate the scene as if it were daytime. The big corral is destroyed. Broken windows. Overturned tables. Walls full of bullet impacts. The fire in the kitchen is being controlled by firefighters. Jim leads Frankie to a patrol car away from the cameras. He offers him water. Frankie drinks slowly. His hands now do tremble. The adrenaline is dropping. The fatigue of 68 years returns to his body. "I need your complete statement," Jim says. "But first I need to know who you are. Because what you just did isn't done by a normal restaurant manager." Frankie looks toward the burning restaurant. 22 years working there. 22 years of peace. Everything destroyed in one night. He sighs deeply. "My real name is Frank Morrison, retired colonel of the U.S. Army, Special Forces. Disappeared since 1999. Jim stays silent, processing. Then he pulls out his cell phone. He searches. He reads old articles. Faded photos of a younger soldier with the same face as the man in front of him. His eyes widen. "You're a legend. The old guys at the academy still talk about your operations. They said you were the best we had. Why did you disappear?" Frankie tells him everything. Sarah, Emily, the revenge, the fall, the years wandering, Ray, the big corral, the reconstruction, Linda, the peace he'd found. Jim listens without interrupting. When Frankie finishes, the police commander has tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry, for your family, for everything." Frankie nods. "Thank you, but it's past. I learned to live with it." For the next 3 hours, Frankie gives his formal statement. Forensics document the scene. Ballistics collect evidence. The district attorney arrives to process everything. At 4 a.m., Linda arrives running. Someone notified her. She sees Frank sitting in the patrol car with a blanket over his shoulders. She runs to him. She hugs him tightly. She cries against his chest. "I thought I'd lost you." Frankie hugs her. "I'm fine. It's all over." But it's not over. At 6 a.m., a military convoy arrives. 5 vehicles, 12 soldiers step out, and a 55-year-old man in Major General uniform, shining insignia, perfect military posture. The general walks straight toward Frankie. Jim and the other officers automatically stand at attention. The general stops in front of Frankie. He observes him from head to toe. Then he smiles. "Colonel Morrison. It's been 25 years. Frankie recognizes the voice, the eyes. "General Martinez, you were a lieutenant when I was a colonel." "That's right. You trained me in 1995. You taught me everything I know, and you disappeared 4 years later. We all thought you'd died." "I died," Frankie responds. "Colonel Morrison died in 1999. I'm Frankie now." The general shakes his head. "What you did tonight proves the colonel never died. He was just asleep. I didn't come here to fight. I came to survive." The general points to the restaurant. The 15 dead enforcers. The tactical precision. 15 against 1, without recent training, at 68 years old. "Colonel, this wasn't survival. This was a perfect military operation." Frankie doesn't respond. He knows the general is right. When the enforcers entered, when they threatened his restaurant, something awakened inside him. 25 years of peace didn't erase what he was. They just buried it. The general continues. The Army never formally processed your retirement. Technically, you're still in service. Suspended, but in service. I'm not going back, Frankie says firmly. That life ended. The general nods. I know. I didn't come to recruit you. I came to offer you something different. The Army is developing a training program for elite operators focused on urban combat and counterterrorism. We need instructors, not active operators, just instructors. Frankie looks at him. You want me to teach? 2 days a month at Fort Sam Houston here in San Antonio. We pay you as an active colonel, full pension, medical insurance for you and your wife, and you can continue your normal life the rest of the time. Why would you do this for me? Because tonight you demonstrated something we need to teach the new generation. That age doesn't matter. That training never disappears. That a well-prepared operator can change the course of an impossible situation. Your students need to see that. They need to learn from the living legend. Frankie looks at Linda. She squeezes his hand. The decision is yours, my love. I support you in whatever you decide, Frankie thinks. 2 days a month teaching. It's not combat. It's not death. It's transmitting knowledge. It's giving purpose to everything he lived, everything he suffered, everything he learned. I accept, he finally says, but with one condition. What's that? That part of my salary goes to a fund for families of fallen soldiers, especially for the orphans. The general extends his hand. Deal, Colonel. They shake hands, military salute. Linda cries with pride. Jim observes with respect. The following days bring unexpected consequences. The news of the shootout at the Big Corral explodes in national media. Ex-Special Forces Colonel eliminates 15 cartel enforcers defending restaurant. The headlines are sensational, but General Martinez coordinates with the government to control the narrative. They protect Frankie's real identity. In the news, he appears only as the manager who defended himself. They don't mention his complete military past. It's for his and Linda's safety. The cartel sends a message through unofficial channels. They acknowledge the mistake. The restaurant is off limits. There will be no retaliation. The cost of 15 dead enforcers was less than enough. The Big Corral is destroyed. Repairs will take months. Frankie hires his entire staff meanwhile. He pays them from his own pocket. He doesn't leave them without work. The customers who survived that night make a collection. They gather $25,000. They give it to Frankie for repairs. He cries when they hand him the check, not for the money, for what it represents: community, gratitude, love. 3 weeks after the shootout, Frankie gives his first class at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio. 40 young soldiers between 22 and 30 years old sit in a classroom. All have heard the stories. All know who he is. Frankie enters dressed in a colonel's uniform he hadn't worn in 25 years. It fits tighter than before, but it still suits him well. He walks to the front of the classroom. The soldiers stand automatically. Sit down, he orders with a voice they haven't heard in decades. Command voice. Colonel's voice. The soldiers obey. Frankie observes them one by one. He sees their young faces, their bright eyes, their energy, their idealism. He remembers when he was like that. They call me a legend, he begins. They say I'm the best operator America has produced, that my 47 missions are perfect, that I never failed. He pauses. He walks in front of them. All that is true, but I was also a man who lost his family because of his work, who fell so low he lived on the streets, who needed 22 years to rebuild himself. So yes, learn from my successes, but also learn from my failures. He spends the next 4 hours teaching urban tactics, situation reading, decision-making under pressure. The soldiers absorb every word. They take notes. They ask questions. At the end, a 24-year-old young man raises his hand. Colonel, how does it feel to have killed 15 men 3 weeks ago? The classroom falls silent. Frankie breathes deeply. It's the question he expected. The question he's asked himself every night since then. I feel tired, he responds honestly. I see their faces every time I close my eyes. 15 men who made wrong decisions and paid with their lives. I don't feel pride. I feel sadness. Because every death, even when justified, is a tragedy. But, he continues, I also feel I did the right thing. I protected 87 innocents. I defended what took me 22 years to build. I stopped criminals who would have continued destroying lives. Sometimes violence is the only answer to violence, but it should never be the first option. The soldiers nod. They understand. They're not just learning tactics, they're learning philosophy, ethics, humanity. 4 months later, the big corral reopens. Frankie organized an inauguration ceremony. They invite all the customers who were there that night. The police who responded, General Martinez, Jim, the families. The restaurant is completely rebuilt. New walls, new tables, new equipment. But Frankie kept some original things. The bar where he worked for 22 years. The liquor shelf. Ray's photograph on the wall. Jim approaches Frankie during the ceremony. He hands him an envelope. Frankie opens it. Inside is an official document, recognition from the state police for exceptional bravery. I didn't need this, Frankie says. I know, Jim responds. But you deserve it. And I want you to know something. After what you did, extortion in San Antonio dropped 60%. Criminals are afraid. They know people can defend themselves, that there are consequences. You changed something important. Frankie looks around. He sees Linda serving tacos to guests. He sees his employees laughing. He sees customers eating. He sees life where 4 months ago there was death. That night, when everyone leaves, Frankie stays alone in the restaurant. He walks among the empty tables. He touches the bar. He remembers everything, the 22 years of peace, the night of violence, the reconstruction. He pours himself a shot of bourbon, the same whiskey he drank before the shootout. He toasts toward Ray's photograph. Thank you, brother, for giving me a second chance, for teaching me that life after tragedy is possible, for showing me that serving steaks can save a soul as much as serving the country. He drinks the whiskey. It burns. It tastes like closure, like new beginning, like peace earned with blood but maintained with dignity. Linda enters. She hugs him from behind. Are you okay? Frankie nods. I'm okay. For the first time in 25 years, I'm completely okay. Today, Frankie Morrison is 68 years old. He runs the Big Corral 6 days a week. He teaches at the military base 2 days a month. He lives with Linda in a modest house in San Antonio. His military students adore him. His customers respect him. His community protects him. The cartel never returned. The lesson was clear. Some men are better left in peace. Frankie is no longer Colonel Morrison. But he's not just Frankie either. He's something in between. A man who integrated his past with his present, who accepted he could never completely escape who he was, but who found a way to use that past to build something good. Every night before closing the restaurant, Frankie wipes the bar with the same white towel, the same movement he made for 22 years, the same ritual that keeps him connected to the man Ray saved from the streets. And every night before sleeping, he thinks of Sarah and Emily, no longer with the tearing pain of the first years, now with a soft sadness, with love, with gratitude for the time they had, with hope that wherever they are, they're proud of who he became. Because Frankie learned the most important lesson. That tragedy doesn't define who you are. That the past doesn't determine your future. That there's always opportunity to rebuild, to start over, to find peace even after war, and that sometimes the most dangerous man isn't the one seeking a fight. It's the one who just wants to live in peace, because that man will fight harder, smarter, more lethally, not for glory, not for revenge, but to protect what took him decades to build. If this story inspired you, subscribe to discover more stories like this. Leave your like if you believe in justice, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from.